case here.
Hey, I'm Big B and I Brick, and welcome to another edition of the Lego Seller Stream. I just gotta say it, like this lighting, right? As always, I have with me my co-host and cohort, Mr. Brickworkz, still down in Mexico. Just had an Apple melted battery fiasco, so he is operational off of his phone. How's it going?
It's going okay. I'm actually back from Mexico now, but
you are back from Mexico. Okay, good.
Yeah, I had to send my MacBook off to Apple to get fixed, but I'm running off my PC, which doesn't have a camera at the moment. So you guys have to just hear me talk today.
Amazon. I highly recommend the Logitech 920 or 980 or whatever. It's the same one everybody else in the world has been using. Only difference with mine and theirs is I have just stepped up into the world of technology and gotten myself a light ring. It's even got like a remote control with it.
Ooh, fancy.
I know. Look at this. Watch.
Is it dimmable?
I don't know if it does anything really. Oh, a little bit. Look at that.
There we go.
Whew, so much. But I got it because it had a second thing that's supposed to hold your phone, but I'm using it to hold the microphone. So hopefully my sound is good. Or at least passable. And with me as well is Brian Corti. He is here from Brickworkz. He's a mosaic artist. He's a professional Lego mosaic artist. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're on the screen, the big screen.
Oh, I'm on the big screen. All right. Well, hello. I am 40 years old, and I live in Richmond, Virginia. I am a dad also. I heard something about Lego Dad Network, so I want to talk to you about that later. But okay. Yeah, I'm a dad of 3. I've got 3 little ones, 8, 6, and 3. And so between that and slinging bricks, I'm a busy guy.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Been doing mosaics for 14 years now and about 12 as a business.
Okay. And exactly what are you doing for a business for mosaics? When you say as a business, so you are taking...
Sure. In addition to just general art pieces that I just enjoy building for my own purposes and showing them in galleries and stuff like that, I also take... people send me their photos and commission me to turn them into Lego mosaic portraits. And so I'll build them and ship them out all over the world, or I'll travel to companies and help them piece it together at a giant trade show, that kind of thing. So lots of commission work and also lots of team building work at the same time.
And you've very recently just done one mosaic that's gotten a little bit of attention, I believe. Because of the oh my god factor of it, as people are gazing upon it. Do you want to?
Exactly. Yeah. Let me see if I can screen share this application here. Get this going here. I'll play this while it's running. Is that working?
Yes. And also, so you can. What is the real name for this style of mosaic?
This is called a lenticular mosaic portrait. I've got 1,000 windows open here. We go. Okay, I'm going to turn that volume on that down. This is called a lenticular mosaic. I'm using cheese wedges, which were purchased from Big B Bricks. So thank you for that. One of my absolute favorite Brick League sellers as of late.
Keep going. Talk about you.
And this portrait is... we've got Han Solo on one side and Chewbacca on the other. So we did a dual camera view. We synced it up simultaneously. So what you're seeing on the top screen is real time with what you see on the bottom screen. It's the same mosaic, 30 by 30, which is the 4 XL base plates as a square, and you can see them coming together. But depending on the angle of the slope you're looking at, you see only one image, which is in fact a 15 by 30 image of, let's say, Chewbacca, interlaced with a 15 by 30 of Han Solo.
Yeah, you're actually doing like what would be like TV magic right here.
Right. And so now that it's done here, I switch, you'll see the video switch. So you see Chewbacca on one side, and when you look at it from the left, you see Han Solo. And just so in case your mind is blown, we go back to the right and you can see Chewbacca again. And then I got to hang this up on a gallery show here in Richmond. So in just a second, I think I step back and you can see it hanging on the wall, which is a little bit easier for me. Right in the center, it doesn't look like much of anything.
Right.
But there's a good close-up of the cheese slopes. There's Han. There we go. Okay, so this is hanging up on the wall. You can kind of see it finished. I typically mount it on a wooden frame that I create, and it just hangs up really nicely. So this looks great. It was a big crowd favorite at the gallery show that I have up now in Richmond.
I've seen these displayed before, but nothing quite like this because of I don't know if it's the size or just the back and forth on it. It was really well done. I was a fan.
Thank you so much. Let me see if I can switch off the screen sharing. Did I get it? I'm back. Okay, cool. Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, was that your first time? What was it called again?
Lenticular Lego mosaic portrait. Yeah.
Was this your first time doing one of those?
It was. A buddy of mine went to a trade show in Las Vegas, and I think it was some kind of either a Comic-Con style thing or maybe even a toy convention kind of thing. But either way, Lego had a giant booth there, and they had this giant triangle of I think it was Batman turning into Lego Batman. And on the other panel of the triangle was Wonder Woman turning into a Lego Wonder Woman. And on the back side, it was, I forget the other one, Superman. And they had this giant triangle and it was rotating. And so as you're just standing there, you're seeing these images change. And my mind was just totally blown by that. So I was like, I need to figure out how to do this. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, nice, nice.
So it took a little while to kind of reverse engineer based on a really cruddy quality video that I saw. But eventually I figured out that and I'm happy to share this with anyone if you want to try this at home. You're basically taking an image that you want to use and you're reducing the width by half. So you're squishing it. And then when you take your other image, you do the same. And then you essentially interlace it so that every other layer, the slope is going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And so you end up with this really cool multi-image piece. So there you go.
Wasn't sure if you were able to see that.
No, I wasn't paying attention.
And then as you were talking, I was thinking like, well, it could have been that Adult Con.
That would have been a very interesting Lego portrait.
Well, because you started naming off all of these superheroes, and one of the superheroes that you named actually has a very dark background as far as her history of how she was portrayed off the mainstream.
Interesting.
So, oh yeah, very, very not really dark, just different. Think Lasso.
Right.
Yeah. From there. But there a lot of the stuff that has come into her being had some influence from that.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. But back
to the magic lasso. Wow.
Yeah. Not trying to ruin that for anybody, but I think most people saw that already. They even made a couple jokes about it in the movie.
Well, I'm gonna have to watch it again now, and
about her edgy side past, whatever.
I need to watch it again with a different context now.
Yeah, that totally does. But so you've been doing this professionally now for 4 years. You've been able to
12 years.
12 years professionally, but 4 years just that's it.
Yeah. So when I first started in 2006, the reason I started was because I had done one for a friend, a portrait of them for their wedding, and then I did a portrait for myself because it was so much fun to do. But then there was a gallery in downtown Richmond that offered, if you want to make more of these, we'll turn it into a show and do a thing. And so I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of fun. And at the time, I was doing IT work, consulting for IT and marketing kind of stuff. So I actually took 6 months off of that just to build. So I built about a dozen mosaics. And back then it took all of 6 months to do that.
Yeah.
I was still doing, by hand on graph paper and figuring out, it took like 45 hours just to design something. I mean, it was, very primitive. But I was figuring it out. And so, yeah, that was the first point where I was doing it solo. And made up a website, made up some business cards, and then people just started finding me from all over the place. But yeah, so in 2016, I was getting to the point, well, even earlier than that, I was getting to the point where my day job was just getting pushed out by Brickworkz. There was just too much to keep up with. I'd burned through all my vacation leave. Every time they renewed it, within a couple months, I had already blown it on.
But if I work from home this next 3-week period,
yeah, didn't work so much. Exactly. So my family eventually got to the point like, can you use some of that vacation time for, I don't know, vacations with the family? I'm like, sorry, I've got to go to Houston, or I've got a thing in Dallas I got to go to, or New York or something. So yeah, I kind of pushed myself out of the job. So that worked out. It actually worked out pretty well. I'm glad I did it. And it's been a solo venture since then.
Well, good. I'm glad to see somebody else who was able to pull it off and be successful with it. I mean, it's the dream, right? It's
the dream, and your job is to keep it from becoming a nightmare, and just keep finding things to keep the train moving.
Whoever thought that working so hard at your side job would get you laid off, fired, unneeded at your other job, and that would be such a great thing. That your side job would now be the good job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It worked out really well. My boss at the time was very understanding that I was overwhelmed, and at the time I had a newborn at the same time, so I was stressful. I mean, I had rings under my eyes. I was exhausted all the time. I was like a walking zombie because I was working a full day, and then I'd go take 20 minutes, have dinner, and then work all the way until that building shut down at around midnight when their alarms kicked on. So I had to slip out before then. And so I get home at 1 o'clock and then wake up at 6 and do it again. So I did that for about 2 years, and that's for the birds. You don't want to do that any longer than 2 years. I think you'll go nuts.
I think I did. I was 100-hour weeks for 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's proven to be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. What I tell most people is, everyone's going to make mistakes, so you need to figure out what those are and get them out of the way as fast as you can, and try not to make the same ones twice. That's all you can really do. And
my advice to everybody who wants to do this is the same advice that any small business owner gets from another successful small business owner, which is you have to turn 100% back into the business in order for you to do it. There's no draw. It's all love. There's no monetary gain from it because it has to go back in. It has to go back in.
Yeah, that's the case for sure. I didn't want to open Brickworkz with any debt. So as a result, I mean, I'm 12 years in. I've grown very slowly because of it, but I'm not wired that way where I want to have anyone over me, including banks or anyone else. Yeah,
it creeps me out now to even have like a rent.
Right, exactly.
I'd
rather exactly. If I had a choice between renting and owning, I'd rather just own and just have it be mine. That's fine. Yeah, I'm wired the same way. So because of that, you grow slower. So a lot of companies can get a giant loan and get started, but they end up working to satisfy their new boss, basically.
Right. You never know what rate you can work at if you outbuy yourself.
Right. And I also didn't run the risk of growing too quickly because I was only going as fast as I could go. In fact, very reluctantly did I get an assistant. I had someone just keep approaching me about a job, and I was like, thank you, but I've got this, thank you. And then business just started getting overwhelming. And this is right about when I was pushing myself out of a job, and eventually said, all right, well, I'll just meet you. And, you've already sent me your resume. So I did a phone interview and met him. I'm so glad I finally decided to share some of the work. I mean, at the time I was probably 30, I guess I was 37 and already feeling like I was getting arthritis in my fingers. I mean, I mean, building all these little mosaics and pushing down bricks. If you can imagine, Most projects have between 9 and 13,000 pieces in them. When you do about 300 of them, you start to feel that. So it was nice to have help.
I was told the story once by my friend Clutch of a mosaic artist that went and got tattoos on his thumbs.
Nice.
The
dent from the
imprint
studs?
from pushing in 1x1 plates.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some jobs. I'm looking at my thumbs now. I don't have them now, but there have been some jobs where it lasts for a while, or you get little calluses on your fingers. And it's weird. I'm right-handed, but I do most of my building left-handed. I don't know why that is, but it's more efficient for some reason.
Good on you, gaining some ambidextry late in your life. Like good thing. My wife would say that. My wife's a physical therapist, so she'd be all cheering for you because you never know when you're going to lose that primary hand.
You never know.
I just look at my kids. It's like, we don't work on a farm. You're not going to lose your hand.
No compost machine or any kind of
stuff like that all the time because of her job.
Combine, yeah.
Anyways, back to Lego. So how long does it take you to do, if you were to say get a commission from somebody tonight, and they sent you a picture, how long would it take for you to churn out a 30 by 30?
That's a great question. So I still don't do it as an automated kind of process. There's still a lot of hand work to be done, even though it's digital. I'll let the computer do some stuff for me, but for the most part, it's got to be tweaked. There's never been a really good conversion kind of thing. As many mosaic programs have popped up. And for amateurs, I say, that's great. Why don't you use one of those? They're free, and have a great time and learn how to do it. But for me, I like them in a certain style. So it's kind of hand done. So typically it's anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 or 5 hours, or even more if it's a really large portrait. You're talking about 30 by 30. So usually within a couple hours, I can have it completely ready, pixel for pixel, how I want it to look. And then from that point, you're basically creating a map of what it will be, an exact representation. So there are no surprises when it comes time to build. You
know exactly what you need to buy. You know exactly what pieces you need.
Exactly. Yeah, you're putting a puzzle together at that point. So that's the process. It gets a little more involved when there's many cooks in the kitchen, but for the most part, if it's a simple photo and turn it into a portrait, that's the process.
But the editing is where the magic is. The editing is the difference between somebody doing it for themselves as an amateur versus somebody who can earn a living at it. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, it's not just taking a picture, plugging it in through, because I've got to say, so there's a lot of folks out there that do have the impression that, oh, there's these mosaic programs, I can do this too. All I got to do is feed this picture there. It'll get kicked right out, and it'll look just like that, guys. And I'm just like, no, it won't.
Well, I'm actually not one of those, like, this is my pile and I don't share. I encourage people to build. The way I figure is if we can elevate the discussion of, is this art or is this not art? If more people get into it and it becomes even more mainstream, that's good for everybody. So I like to share stuff like that. So I encourage people to do it. But I know that I'm not as happy if it's a quick conversion. I can tell instantly when I look at a piece if it's had a little love or if it's been just a quick cut and dry conversion. Yeah. And it looks more, like if a computer did it, it looks more dithered. It looks more pixely, which is funny because it's a Lego mosaic, but I don't like them to look blocky, as weird as that sounds. I like them to look blended and smooth and still photorealistic, but kind of stylized. Right. That's kind of my style that I like.
Another thing is the programs don't have any type of color theory built into them.
Correct. It's just as
they don't know
the colors I have to work with
better next to this color if this used to be the color that I was trying to obtain.
Exactly.
And that's where the editing comes in.
Absolutely. In the first couple of years, the portraits that I did were grayscale, only grayscale. I only got into color portraits about 3 years ago, actually, when I switched to doing full time. Up until then, I was still using old inventory of the old gray, the old dark gray, and the old dark gray, light gray, and very light gray. Do you remember those? They cut off, I think, 2006. I had bought a ton of them, and I was still working off of. They were still new quality, but I was still working off of old inventory. And it wasn't until about 2016 that I started opening up to color portraits and stuff like that. I still do black and whites, but with just 5 colors, you know, if you're editing it well, you can get some really beautiful shades. Only dealing with the 5, you know, 3 grays and black and white. So that was really neat.
So did you ever try at one point or another to bring in the new grays to draw more?
It's like a 6 and a 7th color.
To go to 8-bit maybe.
It looks slightly off. So there's when you compare the two. I mean, now I get why there. I mean, there's a reason we call it bluish gray, and and all that. You can definitely tell a reddish hue to the old stuff and a bluish hue to the new stuff. Yeah. And because of that, they don't look really good when they're next to each other. In my opinion, I never ended up doing one that had both together. For that reason, it's just something seemed off when you looked at it. I've certainly tried it, but when I looked at it, I was like, something's not right with this. I don't like this, so I'd scrap it.
But I meant to mention, I had a good line I'll set up here as far as is it art or is it not art. I think that has already been decided.
Wonderful.
Many years ago, I believe there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Warhol that basically explained that to the world, that you can draw art from culture itself. You know, and that has been probably the largest growing form of art since, you know, it's been accepted, I think, at least, because you see so many. I mean, you walk around nowadays, and I mean, it's just, you would never years ago have seen just, you know, an image on a shirt, no words, or anything like that.
Right.
And now you do. You know,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I got inspiration when I was really young from Chuck Close. He did a lot of the one that really drew me in. He had done this enormous portrait out of just thumbprints in ink, and depending on how light or how dark it was, gave it the shadow effect that he wanted. So I saw that, I think it was 5th grade. I saw it on some kind of video when we had a substitute teacher or something, and I just sat there like dumbfounded. I was like, you can do this for a living? Are you kidding me?
The people that, like, and I saw that too. People that do the stencil art. So it's the exact same, like the potato arts. You know, they carve a potato to the shape of the old school way, but, you know, and the amount of pressure, the amount of ink on it is how they do that. And I was blown away when people did that too. It
blew my mind, and I instantly fell in love. And you know how you have that moment, I guess kids do, when they see like a major league ball player or something like that. Like, that was my heroic moment. I actually got to tell him this. I met Chuck Close about 5 years ago. He came to Richmond, Virginia, where I live, for an art gallery show that he had. He was doing like a guest lecture, and I said, like, you've been a big inspiration. I just want to thank you. I'm sure he had no idea like how much influence his stuff has had. I mean, because basically, you know, I'm making a giant image out of little tiny components, just like he did. I don't think he knew who I was or anything. So I don't think he realized the scope of how much his work influenced me, but it was really cool to meet him.
There's another Lego mosaic artist that I'm familiar with, Andy Bachman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He actually did a Chuck Close mosaic as well.
Nice. So we both done one then. Yeah, I did.
He's got it. That's actually how I just looked like, why is his name familiar? Like, oh, okay, because. So I looked at stuff before, like, oh, okay, that's.
I'll see if I can dig up my Chuck Close here while we're talking. Let's see if I can find it. I think we did 2014.
Be like a little mini art class, which is good. Everybody, if you don't educate yourself in some way every day, you're on a losing battle. And I don't mean educate yourself like, oh, there's 3 grams of sodium in this, you know, like something substantial.
No, you're exactly right. So the other piece that blew me away was Surratt, and he had the point of, and actually you see it in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They're all in the art gallery in Chicago. And he's looking at this portrait of people out in the park, and there's a little pond and the picnics and stuff. And then it zooms in on these little dots closer and closer. I first saw that kind of work in want to say third or fourth grade. I grew up in the DC area, so we went to the National Gallery of Art as for field trips. So I mean, I didn't realize how spoiled we were being able to go to like the Smithsonian's for field trips. And I had a deep appreciation for pointillism. And like looking back, I'm like, of course I'm doing this now for a living. Like, of course this is what I love to do, because these were the things I loved as a kid, and they've all kind of smashed together. I mean, when you think about like digital design, Lego, even time-lapse photography, I've always had a thing for time-lapse photography. I started doing videos of the builds in time-lapse. It's just even woodworking to make these frames for these pictures. Like everything I do now is a mashup of some hobby or some passion that I had, and I get to put it all together. It's kind of neat.
Now we just need to get you like on the music festival circuit, and building with the band or whatever.
Nice.
There's actually artists that do that.
That's fantastic. I'm looking for the Chuck Close still. If I find it, I'll let you know.
All right. Are you going to be attending Brick Fair Virginia?
I would love to. The last Brick Fair I did was 2009, and we had just found out that my wife was pregnant with our first child, and ever since then, life has been kind of upside down with children. I'm sure you know what that's like, but you probably do a lot of shows. But for me, it was overwhelming to try to get both in.
I do one show.
Which one do you do?
I just do Philly so far because it's our big lug show. It's the big community show. So I attend that one. There are some other ones that interest me, but like I've got to get real first. I don't have a logo. I don't have anything. It's just a one dad show. I'm working on all the other stuff so that I actually have that like professional appearance that is so lacking. Like I'm sure the first orders that you got, like there's a bunch of just stuff in there.
Well, I do have to ask you about this. So I see the shelves behind you.
Uh-huh.
Is there a giant room of little purple octopus pieces? Because every time I've ever ordered from you, I've gotten these purple octopus. I'm like, he must have a colossal room of them, and he can't get rid of them fast enough.
There's I bought all of them, as many as I feasibly could, because that's going to come with the. I will challenge you because I can. It's a building challenge element.
Okay.
And I'm spreading them out throughout the buyership community, the Lego community. I've been slinging them around. I've given away thousands and thousands and thousands of them.
So, like, see what you can do with this.
See what you can do with this, and
let me show you what I did with it.
With the giveaways that I have, like how you get the raffle ticket for this and the raffle ticket for that. Once I actually have an actual logo, I'm planning on putting a business card in there and having monthly. Let me see what the hell you can do with it contests.
That's wonderful.
Working title. But
slash a little trademark at the end of it. That'd be perfect. Let me see what the hell you can do with that.
But and I've always talked about doing it and everything else. People are calling it it's hashtag BBB splat, Baby Brick Splat, because it very much looks like something splattered against the wall.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna look up that hashtag later, and we're gonna check that out.
There's some pretty good stuff. I gotta tell you, there's a lot of attempts at good stuff, but there is some really, really good stuff out there.
Nice.
One of the first really good ones that I saw that was out there was from Three Brick Friends, where he used it as organically as part of a plant. I always tell people that it's a cop-out if you use it as a fan.
Oh yeah, it's too easily.
Yeah, it's just way too easy. But I've seen some people do some really great things with it. Everybody loves throwing a minifigure off of a building with the torso on top of it for the splat effect.
No, it was a piece from Lotso's dump truck, right? Is that the original use, the Toy Story?
Yep.
Okay.
But at Philly, I'm doing this thing where everybody got a $5 credit for just using it in their mock.
Nice.
And whoever won, who had the best use of element, won a $100 store credit.
That's really cool.
Well, I don't know how to properly advertise. Okay, No,
that sounds like a really good way to advertise.
But there's no logo. There's where did this come from as people are walking around.
Right.
It's all inside joke, and I've got to figure out how to not make it an inside joke.
Well, you're kind of the face of Big B Bricks anyhow. So does your logo have you like there with the goatee and the long hair and all that?
No. It is working with an individual who I consider as well to be a Lego artist on putting a logo together.
Sweet.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's going to get ridiculously silly professional really fast. I'll probably even start selling on like eBay and where everybody else sells.
That's great. Well, I'm bringing up a video here. I want to see if I can get a screen grab of it. I'll show you where I had the purple at one time, that purple piece.
So you have challenged yourself already without even having a clue what I was trying to do.
I did. Yeah, I had no idea you were doing that.
That's even better. That is even better. The people that you just looked at it was just like, this is some weird brick.
Let me show you this here. So this is that working? Let's see.
I'm all proud.
I have to hit share here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So this piece is a memorial portrait of two kids that were tragically killed by their stepfather. Their birth father, I had met him with these two kids at a Lego event at the last brick fair that I went to. And he sent me this package in the mail one day, a couple years later, and it was a bunch of Lego bricks, and I had no idea what it was or anything. And he said, "Can you do something with these? Like, this horrible tragedy happened." And then he included a newspaper article and said, I can't have these at my house. Can you do something?" So I thought, oh my gosh, So I incorporated Connor, that's the boy there. I incorporated his Lego elements and some Mega, but don't tell anybody, into the frame.
That doesn't matter. They were his.
Right. So I incorporated the color elements into the frame, and that purple I had originally. Let me see if I can zoom in here. I guess not. Into that purple stripe there. You can see the gray fan piece, propeller, I guess that is. So I had the purple there, the purple splat there. It kept falling off at the gallery, so I'll have to work on that. But that's what I did with it originally, is I stuck it on the purple there.
Oh man, that's pretty touching.
Yeah, I love
just the mosaic, the story behind it, not the use of flat, just the story. It's
incredible. Every time I do a gallery show, this is the third year I've done one, like a public show for the city of Richmond, and every year I do a memorial wall that showcases people or even pets that have passed away, and tell a little bit of their story about how they lived and what their family loved about them. Sometimes it's stuff that I did just for my benefit, like my father-in-law, when he passed away, we did one for him. But other times it's portraits that maybe the community, someone. I'm trying to think of a good example. So Tyson is a good example. So this is a 10-year-old boy who passed away very suddenly. He was totally healthy, and then he got sick, and 3 days later he was gone. I mean, it was that fast. And so they were devastated, and his Little League team contacted me and said, we all want to pitch in and maybe do a portrait out of Lego. And so it turns out he lives a couple neighborhoods away from me in Richmond, the father. So we did this portrait, and I asked him if he'd be generous enough to let me borrow it back just for the show, so we could kind of tell Tyson's story and share it with the couple hundred people that come by every time. And so they were graciously able to share that. So it's part of the memorial wall now. So every year I like to do a memorial wall. It's cool. Really cool to help people grieve with Lego. I mean, you don't think of that as a possibility, but you can actually help the healing process. And I wanted to talk to you about this because you're doing this now with Bricks for Soldiers, which I think is phenomenal.
We're trying to. I'm trying to get it up and running fully. But
have you told your audience about that?
Yeah, they're familiar. They're familiar with it. I think they feel the same frustration I do, which is how to break the glass to get into the VA. Yeah, that's a challenge, I'm sure. But maybe therapists might be the way in.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll get an art therapist contacting me about, maybe can you design some kind of project that we can do very slowly over the next year or two with my patients? You know, they're in here for 45 minutes at a time, but you know, over time we can build it and see it grow and all that. And for the healing element of it, I think that's so cool. You know, that's just so cool.
Yeah, I always try to talk to occupational therapists about it.
Great.
Able to do that and stuff like that. And then also trying to clue in sellers so that they know that if they get a purchase from somebody who's doing it and using Lego for medical needs, medical uses, it can all be shipped medium mail rate, because it's considered a medical product at that point, and it can be shipped at a much, much lower rate.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Whenever I would get orders in from Quattro and I knew it was going to a hospital, I'd always let them know, like, hey, I'm shipping this. Is it okay if I ship this medium mail? It's going to basically cost you nothing to ship it, but it'll take about a week longer than normal, and then explain the whole and they're like, oh, yeah, thank you very much. Like, our department has a small budget. This is so helpful. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's the kind of thing that makes you stand out as a seller, I think.
Well, it's just I give a shit.
Exactly. Well, I have a Bricklink store, but I've never sold through it. And as a buyer, I can tell you that those little things, they matter to buyers. We pick up on those little things, and they matter. So that's awesome that you do that.
It's supposed to be about you. So.
I flipped it around. So I'm not going to get to learn what the Lego Dad Network is. Is that it?
I always appreciate kudos. But it's also, it's almost embarrassing when I receive accolades.
You'll get over that. As long as you don't get on the cocky side of things. So like it's tough when people tell me a little bit about yourself, and you're constantly talking about yourself. You feel like maybe you're going too far, but
the moment that you tell somebody and you start your story that this all began with a $5,000 investment and now it's worth over $500,000, it goes to the why are you bragging? Right. It's like, no, like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. You have to roll everything into it. You have to be diligent. And I don't talk about myself because of that, because there's so many people that are like, stop talking about yourself. Stop bragging. Like, no, it's not bragging. It's teaching. I'm trying to teach other people that they can do this as well. Because for me, it started out as oh my God, college is going to cost what for my kids?
Exactly.
And how do what, huh?
How old are your little ones?
They are 6 and 7.
Okay, yeah. So by the time our kids are in college, it's going to cost, a mortgage, basically.
Well, even more so. Well, yes, a mortgage. It's something like it'll be in excess of $250,000 per year for a public education, not even private school, public school education. And I estimate on 5 years. Because I either assume my kids are going to be just like me and they're going to screw off their freshman year because they're not going to know, or they're going to go into engineering and they're going to need that 5th year because they're going to go and they're going to take a co-op somewhere, or they're going to screw off their first year or whatever. I give them 7 years, so.
Sounds like Tommy Boy.
That's what the initial store was. We took the store to the certain level. And then basically we traded my retirement, my wife's and my retirement, all the money for the kids' education, and just did a big swap-ola. So now instead of the store being for the kids, the store is for our retirement, and we're back to having 0 retirement.
Right.
But
that's a big risk. But
I got 20 years. I got 20 years to stick it back in, and
exactly.
He agrees that as long as I don't pay myself, we're good.
It's a big risk, but there's big rewards with that. And you've seen that over time, these parts go up in value, whether you touch them or not, almost always. Even a little bit. Well, at least for me. So I've noticed the price of the plate has gone up tremendously since when I started. And that was mostly because I was working with old inventory that had disappeared and gotten more scarce. I guess now it's kind of settled down a little bit.
Yeah, if you're working with retired colors, it should be getting cheaper for you.
Yeah, there was a while there where it was kind of like, man, this used to cost 3 or 4 cents each, and now it's 25, 26 cents each.
That's why okay. for you guys out there, if you're working in a retired color and you're selling a retired color, it is not a 6-month average thing. It is an available average thing because it is a diminishing quantity.
Exactly.
Thank you as a buyer for understanding that.
Oh yeah, buyers get it. There are some rare pieces out there. Transparent base plate. So I got a 48 by 48 transparent base plate. I got a bunch of them actually, and after I bought them, they were very expensive, and I figured that was just because they were hard to find.
It's cycles.
Okay.
It's a cyclic. So it's somebody gets them somewhere. I'm not going to say where, when, or any of that. It's not me, and I don't know who, and I'm not going to deplete. But anyways, X amount enters the market.
Right.
And that person wants to dump them as quick as possible to remove themselves from ties to it because of the possibility of the person who got it from them, behind them, would get caught.
Yeah, I came to find out, like, originally they were employee-only kind of things from Denmark, and somehow they ended up here in my studio in Richmond. I had no idea in fact, I couldn't even tell you where I got them now, but whoever got them probably got them from 4 other people down the line.
Right. And so those are internal Lego designer-only elements for mock-up purposes only, or for cutting to a 32 by 32, or for destroying or whatever they want, but it's never supposed to leave. It's one of those.
No kidding. They're that.
I can't remember the name of what Lego calls these elements. There's a specific name for elements that have never been on the market, like N elements or something like that.
Nice.
But this is one of those because it's also because of the transparent. Since it's a different element or actual element, it's not the same elements. It's not transparent. Transparent sucks.
Yeah.
And just on brickwork, it hazes quickly, but where there's movement, it heats so quickly that they can fuse and seize together, which can cause snapping.
Interesting.
Which is why you'll never see like a clear torso or any more clear hands or clear hooks. They used to have clear hooks, but they became an issue. And it's just because of that, the material that they use for the transparent, it binds so quickly and cracks and snaps.
Amazing. I had
you always have some ABS in between trans.
That is fascinating.
But those, if people are on the market for those 48 by 48 clears, I mean, I'm not going to go after them anymore. I held mine for like 2.5 years waiting for the cycle to go bad and me to buy them again because I wanted one of my own. So I went out and bought 3 of them for $65, bought that store out, and then put 2 of them in my store for like $105.
Nice.
Or something like that. And just waited and waited and waited and waited.
You never know. Yeah, exactly. Here, I'll bring up what I did with it here. Let me I'll mute it though so I can share it here. Application window. Here we go. Share this. So what I ended up doing, I had done one of these out of this piece was done out of, what is that, 5-inch by 5-inch, and I just bought 54 of them and spread them out, mounted them on plexiglass, and did this really big 45 by 30. And then after that, I found those base plates that we were just talking about, and here it is. Here it is coming together. So you can see the 4 XL base plates. Let me make this full screen here. So I took translucent round plates, 1x1 plates, and did a Madonna and Child on the clear. And so for the gallery show that I have up now in Richmond, Virginia, I had to create a custom light box, which was a colossal challenge for me, but it was kind of a fun challenge, to backlight this. And so you can see the light shining through this, which is just gorgeous.
So you use the rounds to allow more light to penetrate from the area of the Madonna.
Right. So in a sense, the base plate becomes a light diffuser. And so the light just shines everywhere through it, everything except for the black. So you get this gorgeous stained glass look from just Lego elements, which is so cool.
And it gives her that extra holy look with the extra light coming through, where around her, not as much light. Well, no, I mean, because there's a certain, if you're going for the glow,
there it is.
there's extra glow that's around the halo. So well done, well thought out on that.
Thank you. That was just for fun, and I actually have 4 more, so I'm gonna do something fun probably for next year's show. But
wow, you could
some Madonna and Child there.
You could put some retired people out of work from they're doing windows for churches.
Oh yeah, I don't know how it would hold up to UV light, but yeah,
better supposedly now, because the the difference between the clears, right? You got the old clear, which sort of has that UV look to it, and the new clear that's just like crystal.
Yeah. When was that? When was that changed? 2010 or something?
Something like that. But there's still churn coming in with even new sets that have, especially with the studs.
No kidding. Okay.
Studs and cheese. Sometimes you still get the old stuff in.
Nice. Well, your the purchase I did for you for the Star Wars thing, the cheese slices, those were that was my first venture into cheese ever. I had seen it done, but I had never actually played with it. That was kind of fun. I think I'm gonna have to do that again.
Cool, dude. It was really cool. Yeah, I think I've commented on that photo in the videos on Instagram like a whole bunch of times. Most of them are just like sweet.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Mosaics are some of the things that I really that I feel as though I can do because of the computer add-in, but not to the level that you do because of the editing process. The color fixation, the color theory of what looks good with this, and even to the point of sometimes you can gain even a different color by using 4 1x1s instead of a 2x2.
Yeah, and you mentioned what you just mentioned just reminded me of something else I can share. The Lego has that bright yellow, and there's not much you can do with that. But I did a piece. Let me see if I can find that.
You talking about schoolhouse yellow?
Yeah, exactly. What can you do with that? So I had a challenge where I was going to make Wall-E, the robot from the Pixar movie, but he's got this rusty yellow. And so how do you dirty up this color? And I tried a layering technique that your audience might find interesting, where basically, while I'm looking for it, I'll just describe it. Basically, I made Wall-E in grayscale. I used black, white, and the 3 shades of gray, and then layered the trans yellow on top of it. And that gives you the 5 shades of yellow now. And that worked amazingly well. It looks really, really cool. Let's see, what year was that? I've got my entire list of projects. I'm trying to find this thing. The effect was really, really neat. Let's see if we can find this.
So it sounds like I need to get some trans yellow plates in my store.
Yeah, go for it. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do. I did a similar, once I did that one, I did a Buddha that was jade colored, like a green. I used green, right. Trans green on top of a grayscale to give it this beautiful jade green color, which worked out great too.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people that are also doing this, the layering technique when you see like really good water. Really good water.
Or ocean coming into the beach.
Yeah, because I've got this color underneath there. I've got 7 different shades of blue that are rolling underneath there, and that's not actually, and there's no trans blue used in this at all. It's all trans yellow and different layers of trans yellow because of the amount of light that's diffused with each layer.
Exactly. So this is a good example. So this Buddha here is a grayscale Buddha with trans yellow on top, and so you get these 5 different shades of yellow on top.
It looks like a gold Buddha.
Isn't that wild? And so here's the jade Buddha I was talking about, which got this cool greenish hue to it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like it really looks. That's wild. I don't know.
It's a neat effect. It came out so cool. Where is the other one? This one. Is that being shared? Let me see.
It's my first time sharing it. You're using.
What's that?
You're using old grays.
Yeah. So this is white, very light gray, and dark gray, and black. And so they've discontinued all 3 of those grays. for if I did something like this again, I would use the light bluish gray and dark gray, and that's it. I mean, there's no third color anymore. They got rid of it, of that.
Well, there's a third color that's darker.
Right. And so, yeah, there's nothing lighter.
They don't really use pearl dark gray in anything other than like armor.
Right. Here was another one I did with different shades of red. Actually, that same year I did. This is the Chinese symbol for love, and it just creates a cool little shadow effect. But yeah, so you can layer it to make it more interesting. There's always more you can do, to a project.
So while you were doing the whole background, you used to be in IT.
Yes. So yeah, I've got a tech mind and a kind of an artsy fartsy mind. I'm a good hybrid. I did websites for a while. I did graphic design when I first got started. Then desktop network support kind of stuff, Cisco phones, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, just too many hats.
I like wearing hats. I like going deep. I like learning something and just like, why is that? Tell me why that works. Why does that work that way?
It got to me in telecom. It got with me that every 5 years something we had to relearn the entire system, and then it was every 3 years we had to relearn the entire system. Every 2, 1.5, and I was just like, no, like this is the young man's game.
Yes, it's a tad frustrating.
You continually have to relearn, 4 years worth of stuff every year.
So that's when you get into project management, and you can just have other people do that.
Well, that's when they realized that I could do stats.
Oh, there you go.
And do analytics and I could see weird trends that they didn't know were a trendable thing sometimes.
Nice.
So,
yeah, you mentioned.
How come you're not including this with your calculation? Like, why would I do that? Well, because this many people are going to be in this area on this period of time, and they're going to habitually be there. Why would you not, include that?
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned a spreadsheet when you talked about I saw one of your videos where you were going through your shop. And you keep everything in a master spreadsheet, or do you use some software for like a brick store kind of thing?
I use
some proprietary.
A number of different things to track.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it is just tracking it as far as just a digital download, just a dump into XML of what the raw numbers are, and then from there, adding in whatever factors I feel are important.
Right.
What factors aren't important.
Because that would get overwhelming. I'm just looking behind you. That'd be a very long spreadsheet.
I have cut down on the complexity of some of the calculations since moving.
Okay.
Because it can go beyond stupid.
Right.
Like if you include globe or not globe flipping, but if you what's the best way to hemisphere flipping. If you include hemisphere flipping with all your calculations and you're trying to deal with when colors are needed for different seasons, it gets overly complex.
You're blowing my mind here.
Well, it's not.
Describe what you mean. I want to know.
We're a world. We're not a country. Okay, and most people, when they consider the world, all they think of is the northern hemisphere. Because the northern hemisphere is, I apologize to all of our friends in the southern hemisphere, and they know it as well, and they hate it, is dominant.
Right.
All decisions are basically made by the northern hemisphere and not by the southern hemisphere.
Right.
But, and so when you think about things, you think about them as far as hemisphere dominant. So it's wintertime in the winter, right? Now it's also wintertime in the summer. Depends on where you are. And since I sell internationally, it behooves me to realize that I also need to match seasonal, non-holiday seasonal trends 6 months off as well.
Very clever. So Christmas in July is really a thing for you.
Well, it's not Christmas in July because it's Christmas in Christmas as well.
Right.
But yes, I always try to maintain those type of things.
Right.
Fall colors in the spring.
Interesting.
You have to, it's an international market, and I don't get as many international sales as I'd love to, There used to be a lot more before. A lot of people were really frightened away and scared away with the prices of shipping, and they still continually get scared away with the prices of shipping because people who don't investigate their own problem go all willy-nilly video making scaresy stuff, and they have larger draws than other people would. And so I'm sitting here, I don't have a big draw on YouTube. I'm just a guy with a small channel, and me saying this, that, the next thing, well, there's a channel that's got, 30, 40, 50,000 or whatever that has a much more robust following of people. Hear that, they think it's over with. Not that that person is wrong.
Right.
I'll be perfectly clear. I'm not talking shit about anybody. Brickworkz made a video a long time ago when the rates of shipping went up a lot, and a lot of people got scared internationally of how much it would cost to ship, and they just stopped even looking at the U.S. to buying their brick.
Wow.
I can pay a certain amount of money to a company that has already renegotiated terms with USPS to maintain what the old rates were, if I'm willing to pay a couple bucks a month to make that shit happen.
Right.
Why would I not do that?
Yeah.
Why would I not research that? Because it's possible. Because there's always possibilities. When somebody says, no, you can't do this, there's always somebody who says, well, I used to be able to. Let me just figure out a way to legally do this so I can.
Somebody knows a guy who knows a guy.
Right, but it's not a knows a guy thing like I get the minifigure heads. It's a knows a guy who has paid a contract through a government and has gained legal access to doing something.
Right.
Minifig heads is just some dude that's doing something and selling it to some other dude, some other dude. Same way that the transparent base plates come out of Lego. It's somebody doing something that they're not supposed to do.
Right. And,
it's all your level of ethics as to whether or not it's still dirty or not.
Yeah.
Ultimately, any rare piece, any misprint, not necessarily misprint, but anything like that, for the most part, that comes in quantities, that's stolen straight out of the factory.
No kidding.
Like all those marbled bricks where you see, have you ever seen pictures of people that have marbled bricks and you can see? Yeah. It's almost like it's a fade too. That's because that's how they got churned out. So as the color was going from here to there or whatever else, and somebody collected all of those bricks and was just like, this is going to make a really cool something.
So they were in a reject bin somewhere, and someone just put it in the back of their car and drove off with it.
Its job is probably, or used to be at least, to grab all those things. I'm sure it's all computer. There's probably minimal people.
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear from Kevin Hinkle that there's actually people pulling the bricks and pieces orders.
Really?
Yeah, I had surmised that it was all automated with I
would have figured weight-based, camera-based,
scales and everything else. Yeah. He's like, oh no, they don't even have scales. He's like, they are hand count everything.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, that sucks. That's why lug bulk takes so long.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But yeah, I would assume that it's somebody's job that they just swooped in and grabbed a lot of those things. And like I said, it's your level of morality as to, can I own this or am I owning stolen property?
Exactly. It never even dawned on me when I built it. I knew that the trans base plates were extremely rare because I got curious and they existed when I looked up what is that option where you can see what colors are available with that piece.
Yeah.
And trans showed up. I'm like, well, I'm going to click on this, and so I clicked on it, found these rare ones.
Yeah.
And I knew they were rare, so of course they were expensive, but it never occurred to me that until after I had even built the thing that, yeah, it probably fell off a truck somewhere along the lines and got sold to someone who sold it, got it overseas to the U.S. where I got it from somebody who probably got it from somebody else in the U.S.
Yeah.
And, because they're that one, because it's my piece, they're used. I don't ever sell something that's used quality, but those base plates were used. But I was just happy to get my hands on some. And if the light's shining through them anyhow, I don't care if they're scratched. You can't see anything.
There's something applied to it. The only time I've really seen people worry about the scratch level on those is when they're using it as a clear piece.
Right.
When it's going to be clear in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a couple of the 48 by 48s. But what I had a lot of way back when was the 16 by 16s, because a lot of people also use those for the stained glass style of mosaic.
Nice.
I know a couple of folks. I was trying to talk Howie's stuff, because he does that style with lights. So he builds like superhero lights and stuff like that for kids, and he uses those base plates as well, into cutting them in half to make them into 8 by 16s.
It seems like a crime to cut a base plate.
No, because even if you're a purist,
Kills me a little inside.
well, I get that, but even as a purist, because I'm a purist myself, okay, I'm reluctantly going into trying to find somebody to even dye lift arms for me for a pink tank that I want to build for my daughter.
Nice.
But I'm like, I'm reluctant sometimes to even talk about it, because not only as a store owner, there's always going to be that one guy that's just like, he's doing all this shady stuff. But because it sort of like icks me out.
Right.
But just like Lego has recommended in the past for you to cut string and hydraulic hose,
Sure.
and rigid hose, it also used to be in the instructions to cut a base plate.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I get a lot of requests for round portraits, and most of the time I'm able to just say, this is not going to come out the way you want it to come out. It's going to be very blocky, and if you end up not liking it, there's not much I can do at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend we say no and move on. But at some point, I would love to make a circular base plate and see what we can do with it. I've mocked some up that are. I'll bring up an example. I took one and basically used it as a square 30 by 30, but kind of made dark corners so that what you're looking at is the oval and the portrait's inside the oval, but it's still a square mosaic.
I was like a Dremel tool on a.
It just seems so wrong, but I guess, yeah. I mean, if it's for your daughter, you got to make her smile. You got to do whatever, you
Right.
need to do. I don't care what the internet crazies talk about with one-off pieces. It's for your daughter.
Is my kid.
Yeah. Do your thing.
Are you familiar with the brick bending people?
Yes, they do those cool geometric patterns out of See, this is my world. I love the little repetitive stuff.
So
using 1x2s to kind of stagger.
I was thinking about, like, how would you finish that off so it's not blocky on the edges? I could think about doing that with the brick bending, where you're using the tolerances of like a 1x2 plate,
right,
long-wise, to wrap all the way around it to make the dirty edges go clean.
It'd be very cool. I'd probably have to glue at that point, but that is, it'd be delicate as heck. Yeah. I'd hate to move that thing, or let alone ship it across the world.
There would be glue involved, I believe.
There would have to be glue involved, yeah.
Now, you've also gotten into doing your traditional mosaics that you do. I know you can't necessarily talk about this one because of NDA, but you do more than plate mosaics and cheese mosaics. Yep. You're also getting into doing...
I do some brick mosaics, sure. Most of the time... Well, I can talk about the ones I've done for sure. A lot of times if I'm doing a big group project and we've got a trade show, let's say, it's a lot easier for people to manipulate, kids especially, to manipulate bricks than it is plates, because they're just so tiny. So if I do an event, a lot of times I'll use bricks. In fact, I think I ordered one through you a couple months ago for a show I did out in Austin, Texas. And we used brick for that. It was a giant 90 by 60 inch mosaic of a company mural for a pharmaceutical. But we used bricks for that. I typically like to work with plates because they weigh less. They're easier to ship. They take up less space. Their clutch power, I find, is a lot stronger because it's a lot hard.
The walls do have flexibility. I mean, if you're
and because they're tall, the bricks are a little easier to push over. A plate is going to stay stuck. So I like plates for a lot of reasons, but yeah, one advantage is it's a lot easier to manipulate with little hands if you've got kids working on a piece, or I do some group builds in Richmond, the local community, where we have 200 or 300 kids. I'm not going to have them work with little plates. it's much easier to grip a brick. But yeah, so we do some bricks, some plates, and then of course the cheese thing, which was a lot of fun.
That was still like. Well, no, I mean, you could not have picked a better duo.
I know. So it actually worked out great. So the night that this gallery show opened, there was a big opening reception, and it happened to share the evening with a comic book artist who has done a lot of the trading cards for the official Star Wars trading cards or something like that. And he happened to be opening in the lobby of the building where I had a gallery. And so it was this great crossover audience. And so the curator of the gallery said, hey, you know, we have this guy coming in. I don't know if any of your pieces are Star Wars themed, but you're going to get a lot of Star Wars audience. And I'm like, well, Lego and Star Wars kind of go, you know, like a hand in glove here. So yeah, I'll do something Star Warsy. And at the time, I'll tell you this is kind of a cool behind the scenes. So I'm a big Hamilton nerd, the musical. And at the time, I had designed my first lenticular mosaic was going to be Alexander Hamilton, the one we know of on the $20 bill, and then converting to Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, depending on your perspective. And so when she said Star Wars, I'm like, well, this has a lot more mass appeal. Not everyone's going to identify Hamilton when they see him, or Lin-Manuel Miranda. So I'm going to switch this, and it'll be Han and Chewie. And so there was the Han and Chewie. That's the behind the scenes story on that.
So you're also a builder. I see the ship in a bottle set up over your shoulder there.
Oh, do you really? I didn't realize the camera went up that high. Yeah, absolutely. So I bought this. I haven't actually played with it yet.
I heard it's disappointing.
I actually got to see the size of this at a Lego store, and I'm like, this is enormous. What am I going to do with this thing when it's all set up? It's almost life size on this box. It's huge. Yeah. So that's I'll set it up some night when I want to have.
I mean, disappointing as far as if you were a follower of the original ideas set.
Oh yeah, those things can never say super true.
Yeah, I mean, but the original idea set, I was so into that because I was like, look at all of these pieces that are going to be coming back that are, you know, like, this is a $7 piece right now. Like, it's going to be a $3 piece again soon. Like, sweet. Like, this is a great piece.
It's funny the different lenses where we see sets through. You're looking at it for how can I part this out? You know?
No, not even that. Just I'm excited to see. I'm excited about that. Not only the build, because I'm not a creator like you guys. I'm a instructions builder. You know, I can mess around a little bit, but not anything close to anybody. But I get the basics of art. I get the color theory. I formally trained all that, blah blah blah, degreed. But I'm not a creator. I discovered that I was a terrible, terrible artist way too far into the college experience to back out of it.
Nice.
So luckily I was working on an engineering degrees at the same time. So it worked out well. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love to look at it and see these elements that are coming back out because I love to see what people do with these things. And knowing that some of these elements that people aren't going to even touch because they've been overpopularized by another YouTuber, like Jang used a lot of those in his zoo.
Okay.
The price of them went up ridiculously high. Other famously is Brickworkz talking about the shark. You know, like,
oh yeah, you see the little shark.
The price of the shark go up. We actually saw it happen way back when with the Time Cruiser game in the early days of the Saturday stream, when we were trying to get together people to play Time Cruisers remotely. Like, we watched the price go from like $15 to $35 in one night just on Amazon, people snatching up the game. So I'm into it, actually, which is the reverse that it should be.
Right.
I should be wanting these pieces to be super expensive, but instead I'd much rather them be readily available and have a big dump on price.
Yeah.
Because I try to, just like anybody who has a whole bunch of Harry Potter stuff right now, try to dump that stuff before it hits the market. So
see, I only like.
I'm not going to get. If I had those pieces beforehand, I would have dropped the price and sold them as quickly as possible, knowing that, you know, they're going to be so ridiculously available that, you know,
Yeah, I loved when Harry Potter came out because I got access to this dark purple plates that I never had worked with prior, and it was just glorious. Um, yeah, absolutely. Hey, I got a note from Brickworkz about a Millennium Falcon mosaic, and I actually have one, so I wanted to share that if that's all right.
Yes.
All right, hang on a second. Here we go. This is my daughter when she was 2, standing in front of Han and Chewie going into Lightspeed. Is that showing up? There we go.
Yes. Yeah, that's adorable, dude.
So let me see if I can. There, I set a chair next to it. So this was built for a young kid in Texas. The parents commissioned it. They wanted something Star Warsy and artsy that would be fun, and it was a bit of an investment for them. But they said, I want something that he'll have his whole life. And I was like, well, we can do that. This is Star Wars. This is timeless. This is awesome. It came out so cool. Like I hated giving this one out because it turned out way better than I expected.
I was going to say, like, this looks like one of those ones where, maybe you should have been doing the government thing and doing 2 of them when they paid for 1.
Yeah, I fell in love making them. Let's see, I think I have one more. Yeah, there we go.
But if you do a second one, dude, do the one with your daughter standing in front of it included in the mosaic. That is absolutely adorable.
I don't know if she's even seen this picture. She's 8 now. Yeah, that was a fun one. I needed something to show scale. I'm like, Emma, come on over here.
So when you do these for other people, do you glue them before you ship them?
No. So these, that's a great question. So these are stuck onto the base plates. The base plates are mounted onto the frames, but the parts are just clutch powered on there. And I just wrap them up real safe. I always include extra pieces, but it's never been an issue for my customers. I think one time in 350 mosaics, and I've shipped to 16 different countries so far, and I've only had one instance where I think 2 pieces came off of a 47,000 piece mosaic, and that was my first year. So I've learned better techniques. But yeah, you just protect the corners, keep it safe in shipping, and they get there in one piece.
So you've never had the customer come back and be like, my little nephew came over and
haven't had that. Funny enough, I had a Valentine's portrait that I did for a local guy, and it was a portrait of he and his girlfriend. And about 2 days later, I got an email from his girlfriend saying, like, we broke up, so is there any way I can pull him off and replace him with something else, like my grandfather or something? I was like, oh man. Because they're not glued, yeah, we could talk. We
could do that.
We'll make that. In fact, the Yoda. Let me see if I can find the picture of the Yoda to share. There's a picture of Yoda that evolved out of a portrait that I had started for my then girlfriend, and when we broke up, I'm like, well, that's gonna be Yoda. Let's see if I can find that Yoda. That's a really popular one. But yeah, so I do a lot of here we go. So I do a lot of relationship mosaics, whether they're anniversaries or birthday.
I saw that. You seem to do. I mean, you obviously do a lot with families or just with children. I looked on your Facebook and saw some of the stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, so there's Yoda there. So he actually came out of a portrait of me and my then girlfriend at the time, or back in 2006. Yeah, I do a lot of relationships. In fact, the first portrait I did was for 2 of my friends for their wedding. So everyone wanted to chip in and give them a camcorder as a gift. And I was like, well, I've known these people for 12 years at that point. I was like, these are my best friends. Like, I need something a little more personal.
Yeah.
And they're like me. They're a little geeky, a little tech geeky. So I was like, what about pixel art? What about something fun like that? And that was when I decided to switch from counted cross stitch, which is actually how I got my start. I did my own cross stitch patterns. I was a cross stitcher because I was on the computer all the time. I needed something that was off the computer. I was like, well, this would look really cool in Lego. Yeah, exactly. So this would look cool. I'm already making my own custom designs. Why not just make them Legos instead of little X's? It's the same thing. And so that's how that came into being. Oh, here's
I wish I knew about what a huge Lego community there was in the Richmond area, because I used to live in Richmond.
Oh, get out of here! Really?
Yeah, I used to live in Short Pump.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What a small world.
I worked for Timo up there.
Okay.
or I should say Suncom.
Oh, way back then. Okay.
Yeah, so I just work at the Suncom headquarters for them. So
Nice. Well, you would have been about 20 minutes from where I am right now.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like I know where you live. There's a lot of people in that area. There's a huge amount. I must have 6 or 7 customers that live within a 10-mile radius of you.
Yeah, so that's right near Glen Ellen, Virginia, and that's home to a lot of Lego fans. We've kind of revitalized the Richmond area lug. It kind of went by the wayside for a couple of years. It reduced to a very small club of like 2 or 3 guys, and now it's opened up. We changed the name to RVA Lug, which is kind of like the nickname for Richmond, Virginia. And there's a much bigger presence now. There's a Facebook page, and so it's a lot more active. And the majority of people I know all live in Glen Ellen, which is right.
Compact says there's too much traffic around Short Pump.
Yes.
Yes, it sucks.
Yes, it's pretty horrible. It's pretty horrible.
That's a lurker right there that just spoke up. They're obviously watching because of you.
Oh, nice.
If they know about Short Pump traffic, then they're in the Richmond area and they know you.
Yes. So that is exactly why I don't live in Short Pump. I would love to live in Short Pump, but I like land and I like space.
Oh, it was expensive. It was more expensive in Short Pump than it was in Seattle.
Yeah.
I paid the same on a 1,300 square foot apartment as I did on a 3,500 square foot house in Seattle.
Right.
In Short Pump.
Right.
Because there's so many corporate offices there.
Exactly. I wanted a place where I could spread out and grow and have a house that was big enough for the kids to grow into and actually get into high school and not be overcrowded. So the only way to do that in this area was to go south of the James. But there's a lot of people.
Get away from that former murder capital of the United States.
No. I'll tell you, they've been instrumental in. There's a group that has been instrumental in converting the city to this giant creative hub. And so now we have this vibe of young upstart creativity. There's a ton of breweries. I think we're the number 3 tattooed city in the country. A lot of hipsters. Capital Ale House.
Love Capital City Ale House.
Yeah. We've got a lot of hipsters in downtown and all that stuff. But
you guys have a great music festival there every Friday night. There's free shows in the park or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Richmond it's beautiful. So coming from Northern Virginia in the DC area, we only knew it as like a really dangerous city, but it's actually not. It's got urban if you like urban. It's got rural if you like rural. It's got, a downtown. It's got farms if you go 20 minutes away. I love Richmond. It's just a beautiful city.
It was nice. It was just it was a little murdery still while I was there. But it was getting better. It was getting a lot better. The Children's Museum was down there. There was a great place downtown. I used to love to eat it all the time called Comfort.
Yeah.
Fabulous food. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. They don't mess around.
But, yeah, I mean, there was still your occasional.
Still a little stabbing here and there?
It's a little stabby, yeah. It's a little murdery. But I had in-laws that lived up in Seaville. So it was a good location, and I was trying to get out of IT and into telecom because I felt as though telecom was going to outgrow what the potentials, blah, blah,
I thought the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
I was looking at what I could do, and I wanted to start at the bottom rung of – I always like to start at the bottom and work my way up, so I actually learn the business. So I started as a cell tech, even though I had multiple engineering degrees. They finally gave me a job as a cell tech, and that lasted for not long until they just, fast forward up. But
they caught on.
They caught on, and they were just like, "Why do you never have stuff that's broken?" Because I fix it.
Because I fix it as I go.
I fix it. I don't just run a code and reset it. But yeah, so are you guys going to get the Lego store, or is Seaville?
Oh, man. If anyone gets it, Richmond had better get it. Short Pump Town Center has proven itself to last. There was kind of a dueling outdoor mall situation where 20 minutes away from Short Pump Mall, we had another mall. That one has kind of faltered. So Short Pump is going to last. We have an Apple store there, so it's going to stick around.
That outdoor mall survived?
An outdoor mall survived. So I is this just a rumor? Or are you just hypothetically putting it out there? Because if it's
no, well, first of all, if you are here, let me do a little news announcement. If you are in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, you're getting a Lego store.
oh, sweet.
If you want to know how I am so 100% positive that you are getting a Lego store if you live in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, it's because if you follow Lego on LinkedIn, you can see where they are doing interviews for store managers.
Nice.
And it'll list in there the places where that manager would be it will list who the above manager has responsibilities for, and there'll be a new thing added to what the previous one was, or where there currently does not exist a Lego store. And that's how you know which mall it is that's getting a new one.
Very clever. Very clever.
Yeah, if you follow on LinkedIn, you can follow. And I was just wondering because there's always that hype. Every time somebody says something about Richmond getting something.
Well, we need a Lego store.
Because Seville's cooler.
Well, Seville's cooler, and it's up and coming. It's definitely grown a lot. It's cleaned up a lot. The population out in Charlottesville is getting much bigger. But Richmond already has that. So we need an IKEA and we need a Lego store like right now. Because right now I'm driving up to DC to get that stuff. If I need to actually do a visit and I can't get it online or something, I'm getting in the car and I'm gonna do a day trip.
All right. Well, I am trying to put together basically the Pick a Brick share network. I've got all these stupid, crazy ideas of things that I'd love to do.
Well,
with
it's
Lego community, like we talked about the Lego Dad Network.
Yeah,
tell me about it. Before the show, there was a seller in Germany who had contacted me and asked me to. You guys don't need a Publix, man. You all need a Wegmans. Don't even settle for a Publix.
We have Wegmans. We have Publix and Wegmans now.
Okay, because don't settle. Wegmans is the echelon. What was the name of the grocery store that used to exist in Richmond? And
Ukrops is what you're thinking of. Yep.
But I remember going into Ukrops and just BSing with the people in there, just like, can you get me Mr. Mustard? I used to get it at Wegmans, and they were like, Wegmans, you know what Wegmans is? I was like, yeah, I used to work for Wegmans. Like, they gave me a scholarship to go to college there. Best store in the world. Like, we study Wegmans. Like, you are shitting me. Like, no, we study Wegmans. Because Ukrops used to have like that crazy lunch area where you used to be able to get like 7 different types of food,
right?
Not from the U.S. For lunch every day. But we are so not talking about Lego on most.
Well, no, okay. So you mentioned the Lego Dad Network, but also let's get back to the Pick a Brick thing also, because I want to let you know that there are a couple things online about people networking about what's going on in their local Pick a Brick.
Right, but you're talking about the website that's supposed to track what's on the wall and.
Yeah, so there's one of those, and there's also a Facebook group that I try to stay active in too, where you basically just take photos or inventory of what's at your store and just post it. Just so if you happen to be driving by Akron, Ohio, or something, you can just type it in and hey, I'm. What's nearby and what do they have on the wall? It saves you a phone call. Because if you call the store, I'll share this with your audience. If you call the store and it's not super busy, they'll tell you everything that's on the wall. But man, it's so nice to have an actual current up-to-date database where you can very quickly filter what's up there to save yourself the time.
Yeah. So I know that when I talk about my Lego stores, I'm still referring to my Lego stores out in Seattle. But they used to, the managers of the stores used to make it a point to keep those websites up to date.
Nice.
And they would always be good about having a picture on a phone or an email available with a picture to shoot off images of what was available on the wall.
That's fantastic. I wish they all did that.
It's a personal pride point, I think,
yeah.
With the individual store managers reaching out to the lugs or allowing but not allowing people who they know who are brick slingers to come in and buy stuff. And so they're educated as well. Because everybody figured out who I was at my old Lego stores. And I would tell Dave, like, this is the store that I'm not going to abuse. The other ones I will. And he was like, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, they want to make sales too.
Yeah.
Everyone has visions of you, I guess, going in there looting it, and 6-year-olds are crying because you took all their possible bricks so you could resell them, but that's not reality. I mean, I'm sure you're respectful as a reseller.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you
learned
don't go in and clear them out.
I learned to be.
Yeah.
Not because somebody, pistol whipped me and tried to publicly shame me for something or whatever else, but I realized that by abusing the store, it doesn't make their life easy.
Right.
And if I make their life easy, they enjoy my presence.
Absolutely. There was an owner of a store in Virginia, and when I first got started, when he knew that I was getting these old gray parts, they used to get them in those little 100 count bags. Do you remember those, like the numbered bags? And he would just call me when they'd come into the store, and he'd say, "Man, I have 65 bags of number 2. Are you interested? Number 2 color bricks, excuse me. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it." So
yeah, they can't put it on the wall anymore because it's a discontinued color.
And he needed to make a sale. It was like a win-win.
Yeah,
I wasn't, that wasn't abuse at all. He was calling me to see if I was interested in the sale.
Yeah, and there was one manager that actually would as I was filling my pick-a-brick cups, she knew that like my thing when I went into the store was, I'm going to hit up my pick-a-brick cups. I'm going to get my cups. And I'm going to go over to Build-A-Fig table, and I'm going to rate that. And then I'm going to go hit up my sets, and I'm going to do this. And she'd come out in the middle of the pick-a-bricks, and she'd have a bunch of the elements that were unique to the Build-A-Fig table, and she'd just say, "Okay, which ones are you going to get?"
Nice.
Instead of you picking out all the pieces on my table,
right?
Let me just go in the back room and get what you want. Save you time, save me time.
Exactly. That's good customer service, and
plus
they
it's
make a sale.
Having like a 600, like a 6'5" guy.
I feel the same way.
Trying to dominate, like be overbearing on the Build-A-Fig table because the thing like comes to my knees, and to find one side where there's no kids because they're not my kids. They're at the wrong level for me to be around them because yeah.
And we do have a question in the chat for Brickworkz.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you keep inventory on hand, or do you order after you've calculated what you need for a piece that you're building?
Great question. I keep enough of an inventory where I could do a few quick turnaround jobs, and by that I mean I've had one customer said it was a Tuesday, like, I need a mosaic and his birthday is on Friday. Can you ship it to me by Friday? It was a 19-hour start to finish build, and I had it wrapped on hour 20 and it was shipped. So I keep enough on hand to be able to do really quick jobs. But I mentioned this earlier, because I don't like to work with debt with Brickworkz, I pretty much get inventory when I'm paid for the job. So I'm using cash to buy the stuff. So yeah, it keeps it rolling. Exactly. So yeah, I have enough inventory on hand where I'm very comfortable. I could go maybe a month or two building jobs and not run out. But I like to keep the supply just in case. But I don't want to. There's no point in me having several 100,000 bricks just sitting around doing nothing. I keep them dust free and obviously no smoking and no pets and all that. But I'd rather they be pristine when I use them for an art piece. I want them to get really high quality stuff. So I figured, why not let them be the most current, the most fresh, if that's even a thing.
It is.
So that was my thinking on that. And I really came to that point of view when I came across some blues that were like very brittle. I didn't realize that was a thing, but it turned out that there was a whole batch of blue that came out that was incredibly brittle.
Older blues are very brittle.
And a dark red, I think it was the other one.
Dark red, but also historically on plates, reddish brown. On the larger plates,
reddish brown. That was
don't have as much problem on your 1x1s,
right?
But after that.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, you know what? There's no point keeping the old stuff around. I'm going to keep enough to keep things moving if I need to and just add per job. So that's the answer to that question. That's a great question.
That's good. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm sure you keep the expensive pieces inventory to the minimum. You just only order them when you need them.
Sure. And if I think I'm going to use them a lot. So right now for me, because I'm mostly doing color portraits of people, I keep a lot of tan, dark tan, brown, white and black, obviously, but I'm not going to hang on to a lot of bright pink or orange or dark blue or something, because it doesn't come up very often.
Or the old purple, or they're 58 cents a piece.
Exactly. Once in a while, I'll find something rare when I'm just kind of farting around on Bricklink, and I'll just get it just for my own benefit. But no, I mean, as far as the business is concerned, I'll get what I need, and pretty much not much more than that.
Let's see. Top 3 colors that Lego needs to introduce in 1x1 plate. Oh. And 1x1 brick.
God, that's fantastic. What a great question.
Because there's a difference in color hues.
I'll tell you, my new favorite color is the bright light orange. Love that color. When it's offset with yellow, it's just gorgeous. We did you're talking
about below, right?
Yeah, BLO. Yep. When we did, let me see if I can find this picture. I did a memorial portrait of a young boy who passed away from cancer, and it is a beautiful contrast. Where is that? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I love that color. God, I love that color.
It's only been, I think it's in Wally and maybe one more. So not that readily available as far as the color. Have you discovered that you got your both Azzies are in 1x1 plates now as well?
Azzies?
Both the Azures?
Oh yeah. So one project I have now uses the medium azure, and the I've seen the dark now. It's you're saying they're in plate? Oh yeah. I have dark azure plates. I do.
Yeah, they're available. They're just some of the new ones that are available again, or I should say available in 1x1 plate. Every once in a while, every once in a while on a dead piece. Dead piece meaning a piece that's going to have no exposure underneath, on top, left, right, front, back. Lego will throw in a color that has never been out there before.
No kidding.
I mean, historically, they do this where they just hide. It's a piece that's hidden, and it's like, we've never had this before. Let's pop it in there, so that you have more possibilities of growth.
That's fantastic. Well, I had no idea. This image uses the bright light orange with yellow.
Oh yeah.
And it's just so cool. It creates just such a nice little tint. I love this. So a color that this would have been a color that I would have come up with is something between yellow and orange, but they've already invented it. So how do I answer this? Let's see. I would love a shiny gold, like in a mass quantity, where I could really get something sparkly or glitter.
Metallic gold.
Yeah, a metallic gold, maybe something glittery. I could do something fun with that. Let me turn off my screen share. There we go. Something glittery. Magenta is also one of my favorites. Love that color.
Magenta's available in 1x1 plate.
Yeah, and it's already there. I've got a bunches of it. Let's see, what else? Coral. Okay, so Airbnb contacted me about doing their logo, and they have this color that you cannot find in Lego Brick. Coral. It's like a peachish, pinkish coral color. There's nothing close. There's bright pink. There's red. It's neither of those. So I would go with coral.
An incredibly washed out sand red.
Yes. Yes. That's about right. Yeah. So I don't need it because it doesn't come up often, but coral I'd put on that list. That's a fantastic question.
So light salmon.
Yes. Salmon would be perfect. Salmon would be perfect.
Well, get some old light pink and put a clear plate on top.
There's a salmon, but there's also a light salmon that was predominantly used in the quote-unquote girly sets.
No kidding.
The only thing that would be probably appealing to you would be if you, for some reason, had need for a 4x4 plate with studs just on one side.
Yeah.
Or if you started doing tile-only mosaics and had use of a 1x4.
Interesting.
Other than that, it's all like scalia pieces that aren't that, they don't translate over all that well.
Yeah.
For my color chart,
I found the other bright light orange thing I wanted to show you.
Oh, cool. Calvin Hobbes.
this is what I use for my color chart for it.
You're saying that's light salmon?
This is light salmon.
Oh, interesting. Lego had a pink that was not bright pink, but it was some kind of pink. It's very dull. It almost looks like that.
Paradisa pink.
Okay.
There's the pink shade has, I didn't want to show this book off, so I'm going to show this book off after we go off air to let you know about it, because I found out about it from my my friend Danny. Danny Fletcher, the Classy Bricks. She's got she picked up a book that has Pantone Lego colors.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some pretty good guides on that. When people want to match colors at trade shows, they're saying, well, this is the color scheme we have. And it's actually really helpful when they have a Pantone color, because I can try to get as close as possible.
There's about 80 colors that aren't listed on Bricklink.
No kidding. That Lego actually produces?
Lego produced.
Okay. At some point they produced it.
Right. But because they produced that color, and here's the kicker, because they produced that color at one time and that color was available, that means that Legoland also could have had the end bricks printed in those colors for usage. So say that they had, this thing in light salmon, there could have been somebody at Legoland that was building a model of some sort or another that said, we need those in 2x4s, we need those in 1x1s, we need those in this, we need those in that. That's where your transclear base plates come from.
I see.
So
nice. So once they have the recipe for the color, they can
pop out once they have once they have if there's a color in production, then there's also end bricks produced during that color cycle for discovery centers, for Merlin entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
That's where you see people who are color chart 2x4 fiends. That's where they've gotten those 2x4s from, is for the most part is Lego outputting the color for Merlin Entertainment.
Nice. That's so cool. Yeah, I found someone online who worked at a Legoland, or actually still does, or one of those discovery centers, and he posted a picture of their back lot of kind of like your backdrop there. And on the floor, I noticed these base plates that it looked like 48 by 96, basically 2 XL base plates stuck together as one big plate. I'm like, hold the phone. What is that thing behind you in that stack?
Wow.
And he's like, well, yeah, we get access to stuff that most people, can't get access to. I'm like,
so that's a thing, a 48 by 96 base, because the biggest one I have is a 50 by 50.
Nice. See, I didn't know that existed either.
And it's oldie.
Yeah. So I'm always geeking out about base plates and plates. That's kind of my world. There's a lot of stuff that comes and goes, and I don't know anything about it. Trends and like Chima, I don't even know what that is. But
be thankful.
When we talk, but yeah, when you talk about plates and base plates, you've piqued my interest.
Chima is it's furries for kids.
Oh, how nice.
Hashtag Chima.
Chima's but Chima's coming back in popularity though. I get orders occasionally that I know are going to kids. That it's not like a weird, not weird, but I mean people expressing themselves sexually through Lego type of order. Not something I'd ever thought I'd really pin all of those words together in a sentence. But
speaking of that, I was commissioned once to do a boudoir photo as a Lego portrait for her military boyfriend who was coming home from overseas. He loved Lego and he loved seeing her naked, and so she thought, well, what if we put these two things together?
Sorry, you're gonna have to come by and model that.
So something I never thought was going to happen was,
But
Lego.
that's a pretty cool hurdle. Not the fact that you did, but so that's another thing why this is art.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I handled it, totally professionally, of course. But I mean, she said it actually made him cry. She's never seen him cry. He was so moved by this portrait of her, and I guess the thoughtfulness behind it that she said, like, I've never seen him tear up before, and that was really cool.
How much did the face really look like her?
It was a smaller size, so it wasn't super detailed, but it was definitely enough to know that it was her and some of her figure as well. And so it looked decent. I mean, it looked really nice.
So let me guess, a lot of medium flesh. Sorry, I had to ask.
No, this was actually grayscale. She wanted it in grayscale, so lots of gray.
So I'm surprised when I asked that question.
Of gray.
Oh, I was going to say it. You beat me to it.
No, just the 5.
When I asked you the question about that, I was surprised to hear you come back and not say light flesh or flesh or any of the standard. You do a lot of tan work.
I do a lot of tan work now. Back then, it was all grayscale, and even now I would say let's do this portrait in grayscale, because for what she was trying to accomplish, the boudoir style it's meant to have these deep shadows, and it's meant to look, God, I feel like I wouldn't be doing it justice if I didn't make it look as photorealistic as possible. And I think color would make that image look a little too choppy, a little too blocky. So if someone approached me now to do boudoir, I'd be hesitant to do it in color unless I could make it really work. But I think grayscale would probably come off best in that. You get a much nicer effect. And the original photos she sent me were color, but I just I converted them and then worked on them from there.
So what'd your wife think about that?
She was fine with it.
She was probably like, it's art.
It's art. Exactly. It was a job, and I was glad to do it. I said, I said, if you have a bunch from the photo shoot, send them to me. I'll let you know when I've destroyed them at the end, and just handled it with discretion and all that good stuff. But it was something I never thought I would. Who thinks they're going to get into boudoir Lego portraits? But handled it with.
Who knew they were a thing?
Who knew they were a thing? But anything for the troops, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Is there any other questions that anybody has for Brian while we've got him here? Because I know we've kept him on for an extra 45 than we had.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, look at that. Well, I'm up. Ask me just about anything. I'm happy to.
It was good. I enjoyed this. This was fun, especially since we've never actually been able to.
Yeah, this is cool to get to know you a little beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Want to know the man behind the purple octopus legs?
Yes. All right. So next week it's going to be just Fu and I. We have no amazing Lego artists or train creators or anything like that to bring you. So it's just going to be the two schleps slinging their brick. I got some stuff to talk about that I've gotten in the last few weeks. Mr. Fu, I know that you had an experience in another country. Are you willing to talk about that next week?
Yep, happy to.
All right.
Hopefully with a camera.
Yeah, and then we will discuss in the post show a little bit about what I would like to do, because I do have to get this going for you guys again. I realize that with putting together some sort of brick sharing network and trying to develop the Lego Dad network some more. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the post show, and I'll get back to you guys next week about anything that we may have come up with for trying to launch that off. So
I'm excited to learn more about the Lego Dad thing. That sounds so cool.
Well, it's just there's so many of us that are doing this for our kids, because we want to, be able to have our kids not be burdened with an immense amount of debt, and we're already into Lego. We already enjoy it as builders, as a sport. But thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are with Brickworkz. People can go and find you on brickworkz.com. That's with a Z.
Brickworkz with a Z.
Mr. Fu, you got anything to say?
Oh, same old hashtag SellerStream coupon code on BrickOwl. It's still active. Some of you have used it, so thank you. And keep building even though it's summertime.
Yeah. And I'm going to say make sure you go and get out there and support those people that are supporting you. If you have not yet purchased brick stock, I don't even want to know you. You use it every single day. You part out every one of your stats in it. You depend upon it because the GUI is not there yet for you to have an easy life on Bricklink. Just spend a couple bucks, register it, use it. Same goes for BrickSync. If you're selling over on BrickOwl and you're using the sync, even if you're not to the level that the programmer, the developer has set at it where you have to pay or answer a wonderful math question every 15 minutes, just go and spend a couple bucks, man. It'll make more people want to develop software for us. And we only have ourselves in this game, unless you have like $2,500 individually that you want to go and spend on a developer to make a tool just for you. I know I don't. Invest in the people that are investing in you. If you've gotten anything from the stream this week, go make a purchase for that person, whether it be Mr. Fu, myself, or Brian here. If you're looking to put together an awesome mosaic for your family, something that's really going to sparkle and it's going to be better than the picture that was handed down that's above your mantle right now that you don't really know which relative it came from and you're just expected to hang it someplace because it had some importance to somebody someplace, well, it's a little bit more personal for yourself. Get yourself a Lego mosaic. They're actually pretty affordable. I was surprised. I thought the price was going to be a lot more. So if you've got a fireplace, probably can afford to put something nice above it. This might be the person for you to look at.
Happy to help. And I'll let you know if it's not for me, too. I'm very fair with my customers. Absolutely.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. That's it. That's all. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining.